everybody, Rosie here. I wanted to address one of the questions that was asked a while back by one of our lovely projectors. Really, really good point that she was making. She was basically saying, here we projectors are told to just sit around and wait passively for life to come and invite us into it. But how is anyone going to know what to invite us into if we don't show up and show them who we are? And so she was kind of saying, let's not just sit around and wait passively for our lives. Let's let the world know who we are. Let's engage with it. And out of that, let the invitations come. And I really love what she's saying. And I thought it might be helpful for me to just pick apart a little bit about this whole waiting thing and see if I can add some clarity to it and generate some conversation between us. And you can all share what works for you and what hasn't been working for you, and we can just see what happens from there. Okay. So one thing I do want to remind everybody who is a projector is that when we talk about waiting, we're really talking about the four really big things in life, like waiting for to receive your calling or your career, or waiting for a place to live, or waiting to really enter into a relationship that's significant to you, whether it's a love relationship or a business partnership or something like that, right? So in relation to all other areas of your life, the decisions we want you to be making, we want you to be really tuning into what we're talking about as your authority, whether it's splenic or emotional or whatever, okay? So really the waiting process is for these big things. So the question is, what do you do while you're waiting? And what do we mean when we say waiting, right? There's sort of passive waiting, which is just kind of like sitting and kind of picking your nose and just kind of hoping, alone in your room in the middle of, I don't know, the boondocks, and hoping that somebody's going to come and discover you and invite you. And the other thing is like active waiting, right? What is active waiting? And when are you doing it in a way that's aligned with who you are? And when are you doing it in a way that may be coming from what we term not self, or your conditioning self, right? Okay. So, so the first thing I guess I want to say is that while you're waiting for the big invitations, there are two things that you can always do, which are very active. One is you can just do what you love. Like nobody can hold you back from doing what you love. If you love to paint, if you love to hang out with people, if you love to study, if you love to dance, if whatever it is that you love to do, you just go ahead and you do it, right? And while you're doing that, you're just being yourself, you're sharing what you're sharing, and you're likely to be seen and recognized by the right people who will then bring the right invitations to you, right? So you can never how do I say that without doing a double negative? But you can always do what you love. And the other thing too is it's not like you're like being the manifester and saying, I want to do this and you're going to help me do it, and you're initiating in that kind of a way. But you can always let the people in your life know what you're longing for, what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what your vision is for yourself, what your intentions are for your life, right? You just let people know. And out of that, all kinds of things can happen, right? So like this person is saying, you always have that opportunity to share with the world who you are, and to do it in environments and places, ideally, where you're really thriving as yourself. And it feels natural to share what you're thinking, what you're feeling, all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's on the outside. That you're always welcome to do that during the waiting process, including researching possibilities, right? Okay. Then we've got kind of like the inner process, which I think is really important, because it's very easy for someone who has kind of grown up with a very deep and understandable longing to be seen and recognized. And a lot of projectors do not get that experience, right? So it's very easy to disguise something like personal agenda with just, I'm just sharing who I am, or I'm just sharing what I want to do, right? So one of the things that I want to invite you to do while you're waiting for the big things and contemplating how to put yourself out there in the world is ask yourself about your own motivations. Like, where are you coming from when you want to share something, when you want to tell someone something, when you want to make yourself known to someone? How much of an agenda do you actually have underneath? How much of it is really coming from a deeper drive to be seen and recognized? right? And is there some kind of unconscious forcing that's happening? I really want you to learn how to be honest with yourself around that, because this is kind of what subtly can sabotage projectors in this process. I also want you to kind of go through your open centers or your open gates, if we've talked about that, and just do a little motive check-in. Like, okay, right now I feel like telling this person about my dream and my vision. Let me just check in before I do that. Is there a part of me that's afraid that maybe they won't like me if they don't know this? Or I feel like I have to prove myself in some way to them. Or I'm afraid that if I don't tell them this certain thing about what I'm interested in, that maybe there will be some conflict between us. Or you see or maybe they won't see how intelligent that I am. I want you to just kind of go through your little open centers, and this is useful for anybody, projectors or not, whenever we're making a decision about coming out with ourselves or sharing something. And just make sure we know where we're coming from. And especially for projectors, it's super important that you're not coming with an agenda and you're not coming from these conditioned places. Because when you do that, there will be a charge. There will be an unconscious neediness and pressure that you'll be kind of transmitting through your aura that people will be picking up on. And you'll start to receive resistance from them, even though that's the last thing that you want, right? So I want you to just do a little open center check-in. And then, of course, there's always this question of, am I with the right person? Am I speaking to somebody who actually has the capacity to understand what I'm talking about, appreciate what I'm talking about? Do they want to hear what I'm looking for? Do they want to hear what I know? Are they interested in what it is that I'm envisioning here? Or are they kind of resisting me? And this is where that patience can really come in, because when you're patient and you're not operating from urgency or pressure or agenda, then you can start using that gift that you have for reading energy and reading into the other person and sensing just how invited you are in that actual interaction. Even if you're not trying to initiate something or get them to do anything for you, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I'm putting that in there, because as much as I totally support you in doing what you want, and following your love and your passion and going into environments that really make you thrive, I also want to make sure that you're not bypassing this incredibly important process of learning to tolerate the discomfort that can come with not pushing so hard to be seen and recognized. And what happens inside of you when you're not feeling met, and you're not feeling welcomed, and you're not feeling recognized. Because we don't want you to override that discomfort and then inadvertently kind of push yourself on the other person and end up being experienced as too penetrating, too much, when that's so not really the truth about you, right? So if there's something good in the waiting and the patience aspect of the waiting process, it does have to do with also cultivating your tolerance muscles for the discomfort that comes from feeling isolated sometimes or unseen, and not, kind of like pushing through that in a way that ultimately doesn't even serve you, and may keep you busy with the kind of people who you're not even really meant to be that busy with. Okay, so I know this is kind of paradoxical, and I have no idea what I just said here, but I put it out there, and hopefully this will stimulate some conversation. Thanks again for that wonderful comment, and I'd love to hear how everybody or anybody relates or doesn't relate to what I just shared here. Okay, so I'm going to turn this thing off.